Imagine standing on a cold Balkan hilltop, the horizon darkening, not with clouds, but with people. Facing them, only 7,000 crusaders. No walls, no reinforcements, no escape. History tells us that numbers decide battles, but the Middle Ages had a cruel habit of proving history wrong. This is the story of how a small crusader force defeated and survived an enemy so large that it should have crushed them within hours. The Bogomils were never meant to fight a battle like this. They were farmers, craftsmen, shepherds, preachers, villagers. Men who had lived their entire lives under suspicion, whispers, and quiet persecution. To them, this gathering was not just war, it was release. Years of anger, fear, and defiance compressed into a single moment. Many believed that standing here, weapon in hand, was already a victory, that God would not allow them to fall, that numbers alone were proof of righteousness. But belief does not teach men how to stand in formation. It does not teach them how to wait. Across the field, the Crusaders understood something very different. They had been trained to suppress instinct, to obey signals, to hold ground even when fear screamed to run. Every man knew his position. Every shield overlapped another. Every spear had a specific angle, a specific purpose. They did not pray loudly. They did not shout. They prepared. As dawn approached, the tension grew unbearable. The Bogomil mass shifted constantly. Men changing places, arguing, stepping forward, stepping back. No one truly knew where the front line was supposed to be. Some pushed ahead too early, convinced the attack should begin immediately. Others hesitated, suddenly aware of the steel wall waiting across the field. There was no single voice that commanded silence, no signal that unified movement. On the Crusader side, the opposite was true. The only sounds were small, controlled ones. Leather straps tightening, metal adjusting, horses breathing slowly beneath armored riders. This silence was not weakness. It was discipline preparing to be unleashed. When the Bogomils finally began to move, it was not strategy that pushed them forward. It was pressure. Those at the front were shoved by those behind them. Men advanced because they had nowhere else to go. The noise rose rapidly. Footsteps pounding earth, prayers colliding with curses, voices layered into a single roaring sound. Weapons knocked against each other. Men stumbled, recovered, stumbled again. From a distance, it looked unstoppable. Up close, it was already losing cohesion. The Crusaders waited. They waited until the Bogomils were close enough to see their faces, close enough to smell sweat and fear, close enough that retreat was no longer possible. Then, shields locked tighter, spears lowered, the line braced. The impact was devastating. Bogomils slammed into iron discipline and stopped dead. The front ranks were pierced before they could even raise their weapons. Those behind them crashed forward, crushing the wounded, trapping themselves. Screams erupted, not just from pain, but from shock. This was not what they expected. This was not a battle moving forward. Within minutes, the sheer size of the Bogomil force became a curse. Bodies piled up at the front. Men slipped on blood-soaked ground. Wounded fighters blocked any chance of movement. The rear continued pushing forward, unaware of the slaughter ahead. Cries of "Stop!" were drowned beneath shouting and panic. Weapons were dropped. Some tried to climb over others. Others suffocated where they stood. The battlefield narrowed into a choking funnel of death. This was the moment the Crusader commanders had been waiting for. Not a reckless charge, a controlled release. Heavy cavalry surged from both flanks, smashing into the exposed sides of the Bogomil mass. Armored horses tore through loose lines with terrifying force. Men were thrown aside like broken tools. The psychological shock was immediate. Bogomils, who had never faced cavalry, froze in terror. Some dropped weapons and fled. Others turned blindly, colliding with their own people. The crowd fractured violently. Belief can carry men forward, but only briefly. As fear spread, belief began to crack. Bogomil leaders shouted orders no one could hear. Some accused others of betrayal. Some claimed God was testing them. Some believed they had already been abandoned. Panic moved faster than courage ever could. Meanwhile, the Crusaders advanced methodically, step by step. shield by shield. They did not chase fleeing men, they compressed the field, tightening control, forcing collapse. By midday, the battle no longer resembled combat. Groups broke away and ran blindly into hills and forests. Others were surrounded and destroyed in pockets. The terrain became a weapon, narrow paths clogged with bodies, steep slopes turning into death traps. Crusader archers fired with cold precision, preventing regrouping. This was not rage, it was enforcement. The Bogomil force ceased to exist as an army. As the sun began to lower, resistance faded into silence. Scattered fighters dropped weapons and fell to their knees. Some begged, some vanished into the trees. Some simply collapsed where they stood. The field was littered with broken belief. Not just bodies, but certainty. 7,000 men still stood, not victorious in celebration, but alive, disciplined, and unbroken. The Middle Ages were not won by the largest armies, but by the ones that understood fear, order, and control. 7,000 men survived against 50,000, not because they were braver, but because chaos always destroys itself first, and history quietly moved on, leaving behind another battlefield that no one wanted to remember.